fictional friends, and welcome to another episode of Fully Booked. I'm Meaghan.
And I'm Arthur.
And I'm Shirin.
Yay!
Surprise!
We gave no indication or warning about this, probably because we didn't know when it was happening. Shirin's back.
I'm back, bitches.
And we're just going to see, based on schedules, based on how, everybody's doing with all the baby stuff, when we're recording and when you're not kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we might have like a little bit of a mishmash going on, but we kind of decided for this first episode with you back that all three of us would hop on.
Like a monster mash.
Nice. Okay, we're kicking off the month of May. So, we were talking about Fools and Tricksters and everything for the entire month of April. And this month, I think, again, because Shirin was kind of coming back to get back into things or ease back into stuff, because you haven't recorded in 6 months, 5 months, 6 months?
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
I think it was November?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. We got through December, so for everyone, it's probably been less time, but for you, it's been longer. So, so getting into a new month, we kind of figured we'd ease into it. So we're doing just a little bit of everything for fun.
But fun stuff.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So, mostly discussions.
Mostly. Yeah, that's it. So kicking things off today, which... I don't know, kind of is like just a topic I think that everyone discusses at some point or another, but also is kind of timely for you, Shirin, since you're kind of getting back into things and dealing with like a whole new life at your place too.
Yes,
and a lot to do and a lot of like new stuff going on that I think we kind of figured it would be kind of cool to talk through the ideas of like book hangovers. So generally, what are book hangovers? Why do we normally get them? What do they mean to different people? Have we ever experienced them?
How do you cure them?
How do you get rid of them? Maybe recommendations. I mean, there's not going to be a one-size-fits-all kind of cure for a book hangover, I don't think. I feel like everybody's different.
True.
So everyone needs, to figure out their own kind of way of doing it, but maybe some ways that we've kind of done it for ourselves.
Alcohol.
I was just thinking that. I was like hair of the dog for a book.
But for books.
Yeah,
and I'm like, what does that look like?
I think that looks different for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Okay, before we kick things off, and again, I haven't said this in a while to anybody, but especially to Shirin, what's on everyone's nightstand this week, guys?
Well, I've been trying to get through Quicksilver, and I say trying not because it's not good. It's very good. It's just because, as Meaghan said, with a new life, not just, taking care of a new life, but, trying to figure out my own new life. I was trying to do this thing where I was listening to the audiobook and then kind of reading the book and going back and forth between the two. But I found myself getting irritated because I don't usually listen to audiobooks like this. I typically listen to an audiobook of like a romance or like something easier.
Okay, you mean this is much more involved because it's kind of fantasy.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I really like to see the the written way of
I like to see letters.
I like to see in writing the names of things that are in fantasy novels because they're so different,
Yes, okay, no, I get it.
and I like to come up with my own version of pronouncing things. And so when I'm listening to the audiobook of Quicksilver, there's so many things in there that I'm like, what is that word? And they keep saying it. So anyway, so I ended up pausing a little bit, but I'm going to try and get into the book properly.
I found, and this is like a tangent, but I have found so far with listening to audiobooks, unless I'm only strictly going to listen to the audiobook for something and not read the physical book, if anything, pretty much 80% of the books that I've listened to audiobook-wise are books that I have first read completely. Yeah. And then I'm listening to the audiobook. I don't know why. I think it's just because then I don't feel like I'm missing anything at any point. If I happen to be if I'm working and I'm listening to the audiobook and I get distracted by something, or if I'm doing something, I think I just prefer to do it that way. I don't know if other people do this, but I do that a lot when I'm listening to them.
I don't listen to audiobooks.
No, you don't.
I don't know. It's a weird format. I feel like I'm not going to register as much.
Well, that's what I mean.
Because you can be distracted by a bunch of stuff at the same time.
I think that's my problem, and I think that's why the only times that I allow myself to do that are when I've physically read a copy of the book in its entirety.
Yeah.
And then I'm oh, okay, great, and I'll just listen to the audiobook if I've seen good recommendations for some of the ones on TikTok and stuff, especially because I feel like a lot of us who listen to to your point, Shirin, a lot of romance or even fantasy or things with multiple characters, a lot of us are getting more into the sphere of duet narration and multiple people narrating narrating the different parts of the book. Not that you can't listen to one. If it's all from one perspective, it's totally normal. I can understand why they would only have one narrator. But I can definitely understand the idea of dual and duet narration and how much more it brings to listening to the audiobook to hear the different characters' voices. Yeah, because you register them as different people.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's why if you listen to an audiobook when there's just one narrator and it's like a romance, I don't really care too much if I miss bits of it because I'm just like, I'm not that into the story. It's like something to do.
It's like fun. It's fun. It's fluff. It's whatever. Like, so I kind of understand. Yeah. Arthur?
Me?
Yeah.
I am starting Station Eternity.
Yeah.
So it's a first book of the Midsolar Murders?
Yeah, it's Midsolar Murders, yeah.
The 3 books by...
I see what they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. 3 books by Mur Lafferty, which I read before. She's really like sci-fi murder mystery thing.
I think you've recommended Mur Lafferty like 4 different times.
I know, she's amazing. Yeah, and this is another one that I'm starting. Actually, one was nominated for Reader's Favorite Science Fiction 2022. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
On Goodreads?
Yes. Reader's Choice Awards.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. But I mean, she's won like awards before and everything.
Bunch.
So yeah. Her thing is very interesting. So yeah, it's like a murder detective, I guess, that is fleeing from Earth because she's so good at solving murders that apparently it ruined her life somehow. And now she's on a space station, an alien space station, but her problems have followed her.
Wow,
so you just need to figure that out.
So far out of the realm of anything I would ever read.
It is so fun.
But that's why these discussions are fun.
Yeah.
And you know what? So we might sprinkle in a little bit of all 3 of us from time to time just to change things up too. Because Shirin and I have this terrible tendency to follow all the same things.
Yeah.
So this has been kind of interesting to have like completely different recommendations and completely different books that we're reading as well.
Yeah.
Like, and not anything that either of the 2 of us would go back to like Arthur and be like, oh yeah, we're reading this, and he's like, oh yeah, me too. Absolutely not. That never happens. So.
I don't know. I got my husband to read Fourth Wing, so we might need to have like an episode about that.
Right, yeah.
He just spent the entire time angrily reading the book because he was enjoying it.
I think he was mad that he liked it.
Exactly. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Anyway, we digress.
What about you?
Oh, me, right.
Yeah.
So what have I been reading lately? Oh, so yeah, so I had finished a cozy fantasy recently. I don't know what it is about spring for me.
It's any big change of the seasons.
I know.
With you.
Yeah, I'm like, but also like I do have this tendency, like spring and stuff, I like fantasy and cozy fantasy, and then like in the fall, I'm like, where's like a dark academia version of that and stuff, or like a murder mystery, like anyway, whatever. Those are just kind of like the things that I do. I have seasonality with my books, I guess. So I read a book called Forged by Magic by Jenna Wolfhart, which is the first book in a series of, I believe, 4 now, which is called Falling for Fables. So it's high fantasy, but like the way cozy fantasy works, it's sort of like low-ish stakes, right? Like, yes, there are like dangerous things that can happen, but cozy fantasy is really different from like your higher, like more involved fantasy stories in the sense that like, you know, like generally speaking, there's some form of like romance that happens. There's like a quest or there's something that needs to...
Ooh, a quest.
Yeah. There is, I mean, there's like a quest that turns into something else, but it's cute. It was fun. I might actually read the other books just because like I did enjoy it. So I'm probably going to do that. And then I just finished a couple of days ago when we're recording, one of the ARCs that we had received recently called The Book Club for Troublesome Women by Marie Bostwick. Thank you, Angela, for sending that over, which I originally wasn't planning on reading, but unfortunately we weren't able to pass it along quickly enough. So by the time you guys are hearing this episode, the review will be up on the website at fullybooked.ca if you want to go check that out, which is a period piece set in the 1960s about a bunch of women in a very like small suburban area, housewives who are bored and wind up forming a book club. And instead of reading like the sort of very, I guess, kind of boring, very expected books, one of the women brings them The Feminine Mystique, which has like just recently been published. And it kind of sets them on this entire sort of like journey of discovery to a degree about themselves and about kind of like their lives, where they are at that point and what they want out of things. I didn't like, normally like lit fic isn't something that I pick up on a super regular basis. I didn't know how I was going to feel about this. I really liked it.
Oh, really?
The characters were great. I really like the progression of the story and kind of like, you know, that a lot of things worked out to a degree, but not everything was like roses and sunshine and a happily ever after American dream. If anything, it was kind of like sort of pushing against the idea of that. I really enjoyed it. So anyway, by the time you guys are hearing this, you can go check out that review if you want to know a little bit more, because it was just recently published, April 22nd, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yay.
Might check that out.
Yeah.
You might have to lend it to me.
Yes, I can do, because I have it. So I'll do that.
Nice.
Okay, let's do it. Let's talk about some book hangovers, guys.
Okay, so
Sorry.
this is like if you were looking at us, we're like the meme with the Spider-Man. Right?
Yeah, everybody's like, you do it.
You do it. You go first.
Oh, and now there's 3 of us, so we can do that.
Yeah, exactly. But see, then we're gonna have lulls.
Yeah,
So for me, I think if you've been listening to our podcast for a lengthy period of time, thank you if you have.
Shout out to you.
Shout out to you. You'll know that after I read ACOTAR, I had the worst book hangover.
I think it might be the worst one you've ever experienced in your entire life. Like,
ever, and I hope I never have it again. But
Yeah.
I think before we get into like each of our book hangovers, we need to talk about what is a book hangover.
Agreed.
You know, good to have a definition. So for me, a book hangover is when I've read a book that was so good that I then struggle to get into any other book.
Yeah.
I can't like focus. I'm just comparing it to the book that I really enjoyed. You know, I got to go through like a whole heartbreak and a, grief process before I can move on.
When you realize that there are no more books in the series to read, and you're like, oh.
But yes, so that's my definition of a book hangover.
I would be inclined to agree. I feel like the majority of the time, that's probably when you're going to experience like a more intense book hangover. So, that's it, when you're finishing something and gotten to the end of, usually it could be a book, but it could also be a series of books. I find especially when you get pulled into a series,
of course, because you're
so immersed into the world
it.
that it exists in. So I can see that being kind of thing. I'm honestly trying to think. I have had really big book lulls in my life. So like times where I've had a really hard time just motivating myself in general to pick up a book. I don't know if I would actually consider it a book hangover.
Like it wasn't triggered by...
I don't think so. I'm trying to like remember a time where I'm like, oh God, I finished this book or I finished this series and I was just like, oh my God. I mean, like, I feel like maybe it's happened to me like in a minor way a couple of times, but it's not necessarily been something where like it's lasted, months and months of my life.
Yeah, not months, but for me, that's my definition of it.
What do you mean?
Is that when I'm reading something that I didn't like, and I just wanted to finish it or whatever it is, and then I can't pick up a book.
Because you're just annoyed?
Because, like, I'm annoyed. I'm kind of like, okay, well, I don't want to pick up a book that might be not great, that I might not like. So you're kind of like, I don't want to commit to this. So I'm searching for another one that I think I'm going to like a lot.
I honestly feel like that's happened to me before, too. Like, a book that I chose, for whatever reason, I was like, oh, no, I'm not going to DNF it. It's fine. I'll just finish it. Yeah. And then I finish it, and I'm so, like... I'm so, like, blasé about it, or I feel so drained by actually having forced myself to finish the book that then I'm like, well, I don't want to read it. What if I pick up another one and it sucks?
Exactly, that's it. So that's the thing, right?
And I've honestly had it happen a couple of times where, especially if I've read like 2 or 3 very, for me, mediocre books in a row, I'm like, okay, I need something good, or like we're gonna have to put this away for at least a few weeks and then come back to it later.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you bring that up because when I finished my English degree, I feel like I had this massive book hangover, and it was because of that reason.
I remember that.
Like, I just did not enjoy reading anymore because I had read so many things that I was obliged to read for class, which, now looking back, it's like, that was like really enriching to be able to, explore the texts and analyze them. But it's almost like I wasn't appreciating that aspect of it at the time, so that when I was forced to read, like, I had to read things like, what the hell was that book? A Sentimental Journey Through Europe. Oh my God. It was so bad. Like, I took this 19th century novel class and oh God, it was terrible.
I feel like that's understandable. And I'm sure that other like lit majors can, I'm sure, relate to that in some capacity. It does when you're forced into something, it does take some of the joy out of it, no matter what.
Because you have to finish it.
Exactly.
And you're getting graded on it, too.
That's it. And also, on top of that, you have to analyze it as well. You cannot simply, let's say, read it, and particularly if you're not enjoying it, read it and just be done with it. Be like, I never have to think about this ever again. No, you don't, because you're normally writing something about it as well.
Or taking an exam or something.
And having to answer questions. I don't know. I feel like it can be, it's weird because we do think about it and like the traditional whatever, here's the definition of what a book hangover is. But it's true that I do think that when I've experienced it before, it has been because I've read like a couple of books in a row that I've been like, I didn't like this.
Yeah.
And it's like in your brain, you start to panic. You're like, oh God, what if I never read anything good again?
Like, what if my reading thing is broken?
What if I never enjoy anything anymore?
It's true.
Yeah, it's true.
It's like, how do you know you're in one?
Yeah.
What are like the signs of it?
Ooh.
That's interesting because I was thinking about this when we were prepping for this episode. The other aspect is, I think since we've been doing the podcast, I've been more aware of like my book hangover.
That makes sense.
Because obviously like we're talking about it and whatnot. Like not quite the same as, doing my English degree where I was certain that my reading like compass was broken at that
100%.
point.
You're just like, maybe I just don't like
maybe I
reading
just
anymore.
need it now. But I think prior to that, because I really love reading like long fantasy series and I get super immersed in it. I would then like not read anything for a while after, but I always just kind of chalked it up to, oh, well, I'm like, I had a great run for a while and now I'm just kind of tired. I'm going to take a break and then we'll get back to it. It wasn't like like I have to get back into reading and there's nothing that interests me.
Yeah, that's
kind
true.
of feeling,
That's true. That makes sense. I feel like the more that we talk about stuff on a regular basis, it gets more aware.
Yeah.
Where even, it's true that I feel like, speaking of like things like DNFing a book, like a few years ago, maybe I wouldn't have done that. You just had I had more of a tendency to force myself through something, where now I feel like I've accepted a little bit more that I don't have to finish a book if I'm genuinely not enjoying it.
Yeah.
There actually isn't any shame in like not necessarily making it all the way to the end. Sometimes it's just not for you, and that's fine.
That's fine. Do you think it only happens in fiction?
No, not necessarily. You mean like could it happen with like a nonfiction book?
Yeah.
God, I don't read those anyway.
Like, oh. I mean, you know what? I guess it could. I feel like it's hard to say, right? Because I really don't read nearly as much nonfiction as fiction. Although I could see myself potentially, if I maybe read a true crime book with a really disappointing outcome, that it could maybe trigger something like that potentially. Yeah. If I was just like so upset with a lack of justice system or some particular issue that had like arisen, or the fact that someone was never found or convicted for a particular crime or something. Yeah, maybe.
Probably. I don't read.
You never read nonfiction.
I don't read nonfiction. So to be fair, I read maybe
Why would you ask the question
2 books.
again? Yeah.
It's a conversation starter. Sorry for making this entertaining. Fuck me, I guess.
All right, that's it. Arthur's on every episode from now on because we're never going to get through anything.
Oh, jeez. Okay. So,
okay.
what kind of books get you out of a hangover when you've identified that you are in a hangover?
I feel like that's different for everybody, though.
Oh, for sure.
Like, I don't think there's no one answer to that question.
So what about you, Meaghan? What's your answer?
It can be, I feel like when I've experienced something like this before, it can be different things, obviously, but I feel like the times that it has worked best for me when oh my God. I feel like when it's happened to me, the things that have, I guess, worked the best for me have been fast-paced books. So generally, if I pick up a thriller, if it's a decent one, I will have a tendency to like kind of, meander my way out of the book hangover aspect of it, because I just find like I can't get back into something. If I've been reading something incredibly involved, for instance, I don't want to immediately get back into something in that same sphere. Probably for fear that it will do the same thing to me again, but also because I probably just don't have the bandwidth for it at that point. So just something incredibly fast-paced, and like a thriller tends to be really easy that way.
Yeah.
So you pick up something like that, read it, and like that tends to kind of get me out of like a little bit of or if I've just had like a lull in general.
Yeah. What about like switching genres completely?
Yeah, that
Also,
it could do, because I feel like it's rare that something like a thriller will give me a book hangover, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it needs to be something, again, it could be a series, or like something just like way more involved, and not something that's just like one book, here you go, here's your mystery, here's the solution to it at the end of the novel. Like, so I feel like with a thriller, I don't really have a book hangover. I don't think I've ever experienced one. I'm sure people have, but I haven't. So I feel like it's just like a good, safe choice for me at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So for me, I very much agree with you, Meaghan. It has to be something, usually a standalone for me.
Agreed.
Because I really enjoy reading series. And so if I have a standalone, it typically kind of resets my brain a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Typically it'll be, like you said, something very easy.
Yep.
Often it'll be a romance. So things like a novel love story. Love and Other Words, like things like that. Beach reads sometimes.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's especially if we're in the summer, like approaching the summer, then a beach read, like, you know, May, this time of year, that would really kind of get me kicked off for my summer reading, which typically do tend to be
beach types of things. Yeah, that's it.
But I do like a good thriller to get things back on track.
There's just something about it, you know? There's just something about it, because, again, they're fast-paced, and you're only focused on, like, the outcome of what's going to happen. Like, something has occurred.
And you're not attached to the characters either.
Not really,
you know, they're kind of there to move the story along, but it's really about the plot more than anything.
It's true, as opposed to, like, something like, because you read a ton of fantasy, so, like, something like that, which is very, like, heavily character-focused as well as the world and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just easier. You get way, way more attached to them in fantasy than you do in thrillers, as a rule.
Well, I've noticed that, like, if I'm really in a rut, a good Harlan Coben will get me out.
Well, there you go.
Know?
Yeah.
Like,
well, because it's very twisty-turny, right? So you're more focused on, like, whoa, how did we get here? How did this happen?
Or a Nicholas Sparks.
Oh my God, you and your Nicholas Sparks. Her and her Nicholas Sparks during the summer. This one, every summer, she's like, adding this to my pile.
It's so sweet. It's just, like, I don't know anything about this man. He could be, like, a bigot fathead.
Probably.
But, like, you know, I just like his little sweet stories about the southern United States.
I'm not, I can't do the sickly sweet romances. They make me want to punch someone in the face. So mine need to be funny or a little darker. Or probably a combination of both, if I can get that.
That's fair.
Fair.
Yeah. For me, I would say it would be like short stories.
Oh,
just getting a book of short stories. That way it's different.
Yeah.
You know, even if it's in the same genre, whatever it is, you can pick up different ones. But then it's different. It's short. You get into this, and that.
Okay.
And then, like, you know, maybe you think of something, and you're like, okay, maybe is there more books about this and whatever. And
that hadn't even occurred to me.
No, me neither. That's actually a really good idea. That had never occurred to me.
No, that hadn't even occurred to me. I don't think I've ever done that in a circumstance like that. So I feel... But I can definitely see why, like, you know.
And I will say that, like, we've talked, and this may be a bit of a tangent, but we've talked about this a lot, that Meaghan and I are not into sci-fi at all.
No, not particularly, no.
But I don't mind sci-fi short stories.
Oh, that's fair.
I will read those. Because they're short, and I find them interesting enough to, like, stay on board with the story.
Yeah.
Probably because they're touching on something for such a brief period of time.
Yeah.
I'm not bored.
It's not enough to, like, stress me out, you know? So, yeah.
That makes sense. Question for you guys. Which genre you think is least likely to cause book hangovers? Apparently, well, according to polls.
Oh, according to polls, like actual,
like actually,
popular? Like people's popular genres. Opinions, kind of.
Yeah, that's what people have said.
I'm still gonna say like mysteries or thrillers.
I'm gonna say like a beach read, maybe.
It's literally a combination of what she said.
Really?
It's basically cozy mysteries.
Nice.
Yeah.
I get that. Yeah. Really, because there's nothing to give you a book hangover in those.
Yeah, I mean, they're light. They resolve pretty cleanly, quickly, right? So it's like...
Again, it's like... Because that's it. It's
adventure.
like cozy mystery is the same thing as cozy fantasy in the sense that it's a mystery, but there are low stakes, generally speaking. Like, can someone... Like, yes, somebody could be injured or killed or whatever, but, like, it never feels like the characters are in as much danger as in another kind of book.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I really need to start reading some cozy mysteries or cozy fantasies or something.
I don't know why you haven't read cozy fantasies.
I don't either.
I've got at least 5 that you can have.
I know. I think you gave me Legends and Lattes.
I did, and you didn't bloody well read it, did you?
I'll dig it up. Jeez. Jeez
So it's funny you mentioned that. Apparently, Legends and Lattes is one of the recommended cures.
Oh,
for
really?
That
Oh,
stuff.
I believe it. It's light, it's fun, it's cute.
I think maybe I'll read that
Yeah.
one, like, to dig me out of Quicksilver right now.
That's fair.
That's
like,
it.
it's light, it's fun, it's cute, it's low stakes. Like, there are stakes, but they're low, and you're more just kind of like, oh, I just want her to open her coffee shop, and I want everything to go well for her. Like, it's just cute.
Yeah.
It just feels like a warm hug.
What about, like, a thought has just occurred to
Yeah.
me of a mistake that I make, and I just did it
Okay.
with reading Quicksilver
Yes.
after finishing Onyx Storm.
Okay.
So it's like, if you
If you
read
stick way too much
if
in the
you
exact
stick
same
way
genre.
too much, right? Like where oftentimes you'll see reels or like Instagram, whatever you call them,
Reels.
reels.
Shirin's like an 80-year-old woman. She has no social media presence. so.
TikToks. Where they're like, if you enjoyed, ACOTAR, if you enjoyed Fourth Wing, you will also enjoy. And so I have a tendency to be like, I really enjoyed this thing.
I
Now
want
I'm going to
the
go.
same thing again.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's never the same.
Of course not.
And so
it's a different author. It's a different story.
Yeah.
It's different characters.
And so I think I keep making the mistake because, like, for example, with Crescent City,
Yeah.
I tried to read that, like, right after I finished ACOTAR the first
And it's
time.
not gonna
And
be
I'm
the
like,
same 'cause it's
nah,
totally
this is
different
not
series.
working. Same author.
yes.
But
different
could not
series.
get into
different
it.
characters, different world,
Yep.
different everything.
And I think I've just done the same thing with Quicksilver, so I'm going to stop and read Legends and Lattes.
you could do.
Nice.
And then,
like maybe, oh yeah, it's right up there. I can see it.
Yeah, I know, I told you.
Yeah. Anyway, actually, it does make sense. Yeah, I never considered that before, but that does make sense.
Yeah.
It was a series, so I guess it calls back to
Again,
you saying the
yeah.
fantasy thing series, but it was Stephen King, and it was The Dark Tower, obviously.
Which falls into kind of dark fantasy, sort of.
It is. Well, it is.
It's I know it's like a combination of multiple things, but it is technically
it's like
classified as a fantasy
post-apocalyptic
series.
dark fantasy, really, because
Yeah.
there's like magical elements to
Yeah.
it and whatever it is. But yeah, like because he's written it over the years and it's so fleshed out, and there's 7 books.
7, I think.
I think so. There's 7 books, and it just gets crazier and crazier. And in one of the books or part of the book, he literally writes himself into the story.
Interesting.
It just got wild, and then it also references like real world places and elements
Okay.
and whatever it is that like are in New York or whatever, not just like where
Yeah.
he's from and stuff. That while reading it, I was researching a bit on the forums and people thought of it and like, does this actually exist in New York? And there's a whole community that like went crazy with it and
They
whatever.
like
it
tried
is.
to like map it out or something.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, that's it. And then
Interesting.
when I finished it, I was so disappointed that it was done because I wanted
Yeah.
more of it. So
Is it
like,
complete? It's
Oh no,
complete.
yeah,
Oh,
it was
it
done.
is.
It was
Yeah,
done
it has
for a
been
while.
for quite a while, I think, yeah.
But like because I loved it so much, and it just sent me to research more of that stuff, and I was just trying to find as much information as I can to kind of like I guess compensate for the fact that the book
that
ended.
it was finished. Yeah.
That's it. And then I had to like have something else because.
I have a bad tendency of doing that. Like I did it with Fourth Wing, for example. Like
Yeah.
if it's like a really popular series that's out,
You immediately go for like, oh, well, what else is exactly
full
like this,
rabbit hole.
basically? Yeah.
No, but it's like, what are people saying online? Like, what are people saying
Right,
on
right,
Reddit?
right,
What
right,
are the
right.
theories? And especially for something that hasn't finished yet. The series hasn't finished yet, so a little bit different to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But Fourth Wing, Crescent City, whatever you name it, it's like, oh, it's not finished yet. Like, let's go down the internet rabbit hole.
I find I never do that because I
Oh,
don't
really?
nope.
She doesn't like spoilers.
I don't like it.
Yeah, so
You
she-
don't like spoilers.
I don't care about them in movies. I definitely care about them in books.
Interesting.
I don't-
How did you stay away from any ACOTAR spoilers?
Oh no,
then?
I've gotten a few. Like
Yeah, you must
I know
have.
some stuff because the internet makes it so that your For You page doesn't allow you to
Yeah.
not have
Yeah,
any
that's
spoilers
right.
about it. So yes, I'm aware of things. I'm aware of Fourth Wing stuff, and
Yeah.
I'm aware of ACOTAR stuff. But there are a lot of things, like in the sense that, like for instance, Quicksilver's all over the place.
Yeah.
Now, it's very popular. I barely know anything about it.
Oh, yeah,
and I
same.
am keeping it that way.
Oh, yeah, same. But
what's
that's
the-
because I'm not on social
There's another one that's got you're not. You help yourself out that way though.
Yeah.
But I mean, like other ones that I know are like really popular, like Phantasma.
Oh, yeah.
Have not read it, barely know anything about it, and I am keeping it that way. But I have a copy of it, and I'm
Because
probably
the
going to get
second
through
one's
it.
coming
this year.
out, eh?
I think it's already out.
Oh, yeah.
actually,
Just came out.
Yeah. So there are a lot of the ones that are like big, but maybe not so big that every single person
Yeah.
on the fucking internet is talking about them. I prefer to just be like, great. I don't know what it is. I'm
Yeah.
going into it blind. Like I like having just a very vague idea of it. It's like whenever we go to like we go to a film festival that happens in our area every year. And I love kind of like maybe seeing a trailer, reading like a very vague description so we can pick which movies we want. But if I'm going in like pretty much blind to it, I'm like, let's just go watch this movie.
That's my favorite way to go see a movie, especially. I don't like watching trailers.
You just base it on like, if I'm like, you will like this, you're like, okay.
Yeah, like I go off like the title, or I'll be like, Meaghan, you watched a trailer or you read a summary. Will I like this?
Yeah, or even like if I've already watched the movie and then you want to see if you should watch it, basically, I'll just be like, yeah, it's really good, watch it. And you'll be like, okay. And then that's it. With no other information, which I like. I just appreciate it. Yeah. Okay, anyway, I think we've talked about this for long enough. And this episode's going to be a little wild, and I get the feeling. So, anyway, obviously, you guys can feel free to check out everything that we already have going on over on the website at fullybooked.ca. We've already got, a ton of coverage of a ton of different stuff. So feel free to head over there and check out everything we have being published. Obviously, follow us on all of our social media. So Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Blue Sky. Search for Fully Booked CA and you will find us. But until next week, guys, maybe we'll be 3, maybe we'll be 2.
Maybe we'll be 4.
Maybe we'll be 5. I don't know. We're just going to see what we keep doing with this. Anyway, keep on reading, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Ciao, guys.